Anyway, let's get back to his interview in Newsweek in Romania.
Here. So the question as far as why I'm here, to me, you know, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil. This is a storybook, you know, any movie we've ever watched, this is definitely evil against good. I mean, we're battling a situation here where, you know, the Ukrainians and the rest of the world are caring and kind and generous and unselfish and take care of one another. And it's just a matter of, you know, we need to stand up for that. That is the most important thing in the world, is just to show human beings that we're kind and we're caring and that we take care of one another and that the world is united so that we feed each other and make sure that.
Yeah, his hair is blue and yellow because of the Ukrainian flag, I think.
You know, we all move forward as one collective.
So he clearly doesn't think Trump would have stopped the invasion. No, I don't think he thinks Trump would have stopped the invasion at all. It kind of feels to me like he thinks Trump is being very mean to Zelensky and is probably, I think this guy became, the funniest part of this is I think he became a Russiagator after Russiagate. I think he became a Russiagate guy like far after Russiagate was like even a thing. Like after MSNBC was like, all right, never mind. We investigated a lot of the stuff. There was a lot of like weirdly pro-Israel accounts involved in the election interference. We're just going to stop talking about this altogether. And he became a Russiagator way too late to the game because he voted for Trump in 2016, according to his own admission on his Twitter. This is a man who was, I think, acting out on his own, okay? This is a guy who literally was insane. A real go-getter, okay?
Unit. So, you know, we feel the pain of one country's failure and their conflicts, and we enjoy the successes of other countries that are doing good, and we all work together. And for some reason, Russia does not grasp this concept that we're all one unit, and we have to get along and work together and be normal human beings. This is 2022. We have to work together. It seems asinine that we have a leader in a country that does not understand the concept of being unselfish and being generous and being kind and just the basic moral values that are required by human beings these days. It blows my mind.
And what are you doing here in Ukraine?
My initial goal was to come and fight. I think, you know, everybody around the globe should be motivated.
He was not allowed to fight, by the way. I love that, like, a guy whose standards, like a military that is very desperate for foreign volunteers, still looked at this guy and was like, nah, dog, we can't give you a weapon. But in the goddamn US of A, he can have all the weapons he needs, okay? That's the beauty of this country. This motherfucker failed the Ukrainian ASVAB, okay? I don't even know how they conduct it. I don't know how they conduct that shit over there, but I do know that they're desperate for people, okay? They're desperate for bodies. And he was still not allowed. He was still not allowed to serve in the Foreign Legion. And yet, in the United States of America, he can have all the guns he wants, okay? God, this country, man, this country, we are such freaks, dude. We are the freakish country, dude. We are the most insane country.
To come here and support the Ukrainians and support the army, no matter what gender, age, anything. Everybody should be here supporting the army. But I'm 56, so initially they were like, well, I have no military experience. So plan B was to come here to Kyiv and promote getting more people here. You know, we need thousands and thousands and thousands of people here fighting with the Ukrainians. We need, you know, we've got 190 countries around the world, and we need thousands from all of them. If the governments will not send their official military, then we civilians have to pick up the torch and make this thing happen. And we've gotten some wonderful people here, but it's a small fraction of the number that should be here. If we have 5,000, you know, to 10,000 people here fighting, you know, that is just a minuscule amount of the 5 billion people on the globe. You know, we need everyone here fighting. That's why I'm in Kyiv, So every project that I promote is about getting people here to support the Ukrainians. We were at a critical juncture in this war where we are sitting on the fence as far as whether good or evil is going to win. You know, right now we're looking at a situation where the world is waning and it's thinking that this is important or not. And we're at a point where, you know, all right, are we going to stand for humanity, for human rights, for everything that is good with the world? Or are we just going to ignore it? You know, if everybody is complacent and doesn't join this fight, then guess who's going to win? It might take 10 years, but we're going to lose this battle if everyone around the globe does not stop what they're doing.
He also wrote this book called Ukraine's Unwinnable War: The Fatal Flaw of Democracy, World Abandonment, and the Global Citizen Taiwan, Afghanistan, North Korea, and the End of Humanity. Oh my God, he wrote a separate book presenting the book on Amazon. Roosters crow here. I sit at 5 a.m. I shot a white rooster yesterday, and they normally run off screaming, but this one was paralyzed and could no longer walk, and what the f***? Okay, I'm going to stop reading that. He's insane.
Get off the couch and come to Ukraine and defend the human rights of everyone around the globe. This is the most important thing going on in the world today. So sitting around and letting life go on as normal.
He also stopped a rape. He fought and chased a suspected rapist and later assisted the police in an investigation. Makes him a super citizen, if not a superhero. For his efforts, Routh was awarded Law Enforcement Oscar by the Greensboro chapter of the International Union of Police Association. A statue shaped like an Academy Award rests on the mantle of his living room. Routh received the Oscar for being the Citizen of the Year. I hope that everybody else would have done the same thing in the same situation, Routh, 25, said. When these types of incidents happen, most of what you do is just impulse. You're just reacting. I was happy to be at the right place at the right time. I'm so glad this guy didn't die. Yeah, I can't wait. He's going to write the most insane book. He's like, yeah, he's the Forrest Gump, but for NATO. He was not very good at assassinations, true, but he's definitely the type of guy who is a go-getter. He's not going to stop.
Complaining about gas prices and complaining about, you know, your luxury life in whatever country you live in is unacceptable. As human beings, we must support each other. We cannot turn our backs on anyone around the world and expect the problem to go away. So I've been dealing with Russia for my entire life. You know, we had one period where it was okay, but now we've let it slip back into terrorism. So it's just, the world needs to respond. You know, why world leaders are not sending military is beyond me. We're going to have to elect new leaders the next go around that have a backbone and that, you know, have the fortitude to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior. This type of behavior is unacceptable anywhere, any place, you know. So it's totally unacceptable. And why people are not responding, I do not know.
What impressed you the most since you are here?
My trip to Irpin was pretty emotional.
The community found his Telegram. That's crazy that y'all found his Telegram. Last seen on September 13th. Won't be on there any longer. Let me tell you. Yeah. I don't think Ukraine hired him, but I'm going to be honest with you. He might think Ukraine hired him. And yeah, this is the like earliest thing that we found about him. Man with gun barricades self inside a business. He is from, I think this is literally where he's from originally. Reddit knows him. Have you contacted Ryan Routh? He had a volunteer information center and kept track of all the international volunteers with little Ukrainian flags with each other's name on the Maidan. Ryan Routh is a pest who tries to get around official Ukrainian army policy, misrepresents himself, and tried to get a number off of Syrian Afghani citizens into the Legion. Avoid him. He helped a few of my friends find units last year when the Legion had really strict requirements for a while. I do believe you about the Syrians and Afghans, though. Most of what he does is help international volunteers join a unit, so he should still be in contact with most of them. He may do good things. He also put Ukrainian recruiters' names and phone numbers on his personal blog without permission. They found out when random people began messaging them. He also got salty when there were security why the Ukrainians, the pro-Ukrainian subreddit, knowing who this guy is insane. Things that we know about Ryan Routh. He's a real go-getter. If he puts his mind to something, he's going to go out and do it. He went to Ukraine. Okay, he literally went to Ukraine. He also personally, I think, tried to start a business in Hawaii to build houses for homeless people in Hawaii. Here it is. Kwahale Homeless Concept generating offers of donations. Ryan Routh, the owner of Camp Box Honolulu, which builds storage units and tiny houses, said his donation of a tiny house allows him to use his expertise to address a larger problem. It seems he lived in Greensboro, North Carolina, and moved out of the state in 2020. Not only did he live in Greensboro, but he also had a house in Hawaii as well. Because he mentioned that he has an empty house in Hawaii because he wanted to bring, I can't believe I'm saying this. He wanted to bring Kim Jong-un to his house as a guest to talk to him. Also, he was BLM and ALM. Hashtag George Floyd protest, hashtag all lives matter. Local municipalities and states cannot continue to be allowed to provide their own oversight on law enforcement. It is a gross conflict of interest. The federal government must be compelled to always be the legal review of police action. This is incredible stuff, man. I'm confused. Is this a good dude or not? In the USMC, a lot of guys don't really trust the Marine that hasn't had to stand tall before a man at least once. By this, I mean some sort of run with the UCMJ. This guy at least does sound like he gets shit done. I'm confused. He's quite eccentric, but he's also very involved in helping international volunteers in Ukraine, so he probably knows your brother, or at least knows people from his unit. This is his website. He would probably know how to get help to word out about your missing friend. Anyway, this is the earliest thing that we could find about him. Ryan Routh was 36 at the time, was arrested without incident at 1 a.m. at Monday at United Roofing. Routh was pulled over about 10 p.m. Sunday during a traffic stop, but he put his hand on a firearm and drove to United Roofing, where he remained barricaded inside. Routh was charged with carrying a concealed weapon and a possession of a weapon of mass destruction, referring to a fully automatic machine gun. He was also charged with resisting, delaying, and obstructing law enforcement officer and driving while license revoked. In the Army subreddit post where he's mentioned for later when talking about the New York Times, with Legion growth stalling, Ryan Routh, former construction worker from Greensboro, North Carolina, is seeking recruits from among Afghan soldiers who've led the Taliban. Mr. Routh, who has spent several months in Ukraine last year, said he planned to move them, in some cases illegally, from Pakistan and Iran to Ukraine. He said dozens had expressed interest. We can probably purchase some passports through Pakistan since it's such a corrupt country, he said. It is not clear whether he has succeeded, but one former Afghan soldier said he had been contacted and was interested in fighting if it meant leaving Iran, where he was living illegally. If there's one thing that this guy was objectively in favor of, it is NATO. American Post, Taiwan flag in Kyiv to honor Taiwanese soldiers in Ukraine. Volunteer says if China protests, I can order another 1,000 flags. That's him. Ryan Routh points to Taiwan flag. He would have loved voting for Biden. I agree. But I think he also cared about Palestine, so maybe he was conflicted. Because I think he was like pro-Palestinian, like way more than the average American. But also simultaneously, he was so insanely pro-NATO and so insanely pro-Ukraine and so insanely like above and beyond what an average person would care about. You know what I mean? I think they'll talk about him a lot. Like the Republicans will go crazy over it. I think I found his Reddit account. We know his Reddit account is called Taiwan Foreign Legion. He's like really, really nutty about like defending Taiwan and also defending Ukraine. He's in a semaphore video too.
Ukraine is reluctant to be cooperative.
That's Ryan Routh, a U.S. citizen who set up the International Volunteer Center in Ukraine to help connect foreigners to Ukrainian military units.
Now I'm talking to over 100 soldiers every day, and pretty much everybody, all of my contacts in Ukraine, they were adamant and pretty much yelled at me every time that I suggested that we bring in Afghans.
The Ukrainian government didn't respond to our request for comment, but a source close to the officials in Kyiv told Semaphore that their top concern is the question of loyalty in the thick fog of war.
The biggest thing is spies. They're afraid that anybody and everybody is a Russian spy.
Those concerns aren't completely unfounded. Russia's notorious private military group, Wagner, has reportedly begun recruiting Afghan commandos.
He was also trying to recruit Afghan soldiers, bro. This dude is crazy cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, dude. Holy moly. Incredible. I love the United States of America. Moments like this is my favorite shit. Times like this, I'm like, God damn, I love the American political sphere and all of its bountiful content. All right, let's see what CNN is saying while I go piss.
His attitude toward the war in Ukraine, the fact that he claims he fought there and was recruiting people to go fight. Does that make it a motive? Not necessarily, but it's certainly something that's going to cause them to want to take a deeper look at that. And again, the social media aspect of this, mean, he's 58 years old and to have a social media footprint, not that older people don't, but, you know, it shows that he's very active on social media. He did have a GoPro, so he was planning on filming himself. And he wanted to leave that behind, in my opinion, if he had been successful. And so all these things are, I think, important clues. But the most important clues are going to come from the execution of those search warrants and the evidence they're able to gather from his home, a business, interviewing friends, family, smartphones, all those kinds of things. That's where the evidence is going to really come from. And that's what they're actively working right now. And now that his name is out there, obviously there's going to be a lot of interest in tracking down friends and relatives of this individual.
Well, Wolf, just as we're reporting on this and we are getting new information by the moment, I also just want to report some more news that I'm hearing from sources and that our colleagues have also confirmed, which is that in recent days, the Trump campaign was briefed by U.S. intelligence officials about new indications that Iran was planning to increase its attempt to attack former President Donald Trump and those around him. We're hearing this from sources. This is something that was briefed to the Trump campaign. I should note, and I want to be very clear here, we don't know that this new intelligence and this new briefing that the Trump campaign got about this attempt by Iran to escalate its attack on Donald Trump is it at all related to this second attempted assassination that happened today on his golf course. But it does speak to the threat environment.
God damn, CNN.
Just want to get back to you, Andrew McCabe, on this reporting. And while we don't know that it has anything to do with what happened today, what it says about overall what the Secret Service and Homeland Security and officials are taking into account.
Caitlin, what it tells us, it gives us a very small insight into a very, very troubling, complicated, diverse threats that are facing our political leadership today. And, you know, the fact that they've been briefed on these threats means that the intelligence community considers them credible and reliable and things that they feel like the Secret Service and those engaged in protecting the former president really need to take action on. And so this brings us back to the conversation we had a little while ago, where we were commenting on how is it that this could happen 2 times in just a couple of months, and that someone could get this close to the president from, you know, just kind of poking in from through the fence at the golf course. There is always a tension between protectees and the protective service, particularly when the protectee is someone who's running for office. They want to be available.
What's really funny about like Americans looking at a situation that is like so unique to the United States of America and being like, someone else must be responsible for this. No, dude, we're responsible for this. Only in the United States of America could you find a guy that is such a goddamn crank that he was like pro Tulsi Gabbard, pro Trump in 2016, vehemently anti-Trump, and like the most invested in both housing the homeless and also simultaneously nuking Moscow in an effort to end the war in Ukraine. This is our people. A guy who in 2002 was arrested by law enforcement for barricading himself in his roofing company's roof, ironically enough, in his roofing company's office with an automatic machine gun in his hand after being chased by the police. Like, this is someone who you can only find in America. There is no other place on this planet where there is a guy who is going to have this many conflicting thoughts in his mind and a ease of access to an arsenal of weapons and a guy who's a real go-getter. This is, yes, as American as apple pie. He's so American that he's got the United States of America flag on his Twitter bio. I just want to point out, it took me 3.5 seconds of like glancing at the dude's photo to be like, that's a libtard. I'm going to go back to that once again. I'm going to toot my own horn here and tell you once again, I saw the man, I saw his nipples, and I was like, that's a libtard. Okay.